In this video, I'd like to talk to you about the most important scale that you can learn as a musician. And that scale is going to be the C major scale. Let's go ahead and talk about why that scale is considered an important scale. Or let's actually first off look at what notes are inside of it. So the C major scale has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So there's 7 notes first off in our major scale, right? And let's go ahead and number those as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then this we talked about this before. This could be either our octave, we could call it 8, or we could call it 1. For the purposes of this video, I am just going to call that 1. All right, so we have 7 notes in our scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now the major scale is by far the most important scale. Let's understand why. Well, the first thing is to understand that all scales are really going to be the building blocks of music. So we want to understand that any scale it's really just the building blocks. So we use scales to build everything else. What other kinds of things am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about chords, intervals, distances, anything that you can possibly think of, we use a major scale. What about minor scales? They are absolutely built from major scales. What about minor chords? They're built from major scales. What about a half diminished chord? It's built from a major scale. And so that's sort of the idea. Building blocks of everything are going to be derived from major scales. Now, the other thing we want to consider is, why is the C major scale so much more important than the other scales? Well, the reason why it's so much more important is because it's also considered to be the natural scale. The natural scale. It's the only scale, natural scale. The C major scale is the only scale that has no sharps. Okay, and so this is going to have no sharps, and it has no flats. And as you can see above in this example, up here, it just simply goes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Now that's an important fact. If, for example, you play piano, that means you're only going to be using white keys. So pianos have white keys as well as black keys. If you play piano, if you played only the white keys, you are effectively playing the C major scale. On guitar, there's really no correlation as to what frets they kind of work with. It's a little more random. Maybe the same thing for ukulele. It's a little tough to understand, and maybe a bass, it can be a little tough to understand where those notes are at if you're not terribly familiar with the neck. But we do want to understand that the C major scale has no sharps and no flats, therefore it makes it one of the easiest scales to get down for pianists and for other musicians, and it's the most basic scale. It's the first scale that most musicians are going to learn. In future videos, we're going to talk about how to build major scales and why they're important and what some of the things that we can do with them.